Muskogee County has 159 cases, and we have had 12 deaths. We've had a lot more cases really in the last probably 3 weeks than we've had, and so we've continued to rise in cases here in Muskogee County. We are the 17th highest county out of the 77 counties in the state of Oklahoma. Right next to us, actually, Wagner County and Tulsa County have higher numbers. In fact, I think Tulsa County has the largest number now of positive cases. The next thing I want to really talk about is really what's next. What is next for our students? I know that there's a lot of anxious, excited people that are anxious to say, let's get back to work, let's get back in school, let's keep going. So I'm going to kind of share with you some of the survey results, and then I'm going to kind of move through a little bit of information here. Number one priority for me, and I want you to understand this and know this, that the safety and well-being and security of our staff and our students is my number one priority. And so when I look at this, I'm not looking at the political piece of this. I'm not looking at what's popular. What I'm looking at is making sure that I can keep my students and my staff safe. That is my responsibility as the superintendent. So wanted you to know that that's kind of where I'm coming from, that premise. You know, during this pandemic, it's been very hard to really know and predict what the next steps are. Because things change so rapidly and so quickly. So we've experienced with this unprecedented times. We were out of school for really the last quarter, and so it's been a very difficult time for everyone. But I will tell you that what I've tried to do very much is really focus and pay attention and study. One is I get on a call every week with the Oklahoma State Department of Education. Our state superintendent, Joy Hoffmeister, has done a fabulous job of really communicating to the superintendents and to the administrators across the state of Oklahoma. So I applaud her and her efforts and her team that have put together a really good process to where we get information. The Center of Disease Control, of course, the CDC, is really important to us. They have put out guidelines and really have stringent guidelines that some of them we can follow, and we're going to follow as many of those as we can, as close as possible. And then the Muskogee County Health Authority is also someone that we really have worked and teamed up with to listen to what's really going on locally in understanding where we're at. This morning I had a great opportunity to meet again with my Return to School committee. We developed a committee that was made up of parents, staff, administrators. We really have had a great communication process to where they've been able to tell us kind of where we're at. So we were able to present our plan this morning and get feedback from them, and really received a lot of great information, just things that maybe we had not really considered until actually they have brought it up. So really good. One of the things that came out, I want to say it was maybe last week, was watching the national news, and then I had some information that came across my desk. The American Academy of Pediatrics, they are recommending that we return to school in person. They talk about children and how important it is and their deficits that they're receiving right now. There's deficits in reading and comprehension. There's deficits in just the learning process, because everyone has been out of school since March. And those are negative effects, and the mental health is the other piece, the second piece that we feel like that they have reached out and said, we feel like that these are long-lasting effects, that even the virus, even though it's negative and tough, they're recommending that it's worth coming back, because the effects on kids has not been as prevalent as it has on the adults. Let's talk a little bit about survey results. If you recall, we did some survey results and put those out after one of our meetings. So 78% of you have said that you're ready for students to come back to school. I laugh when I read this one because I always think about, kids in my own house. I've got older kids and in their 20s, and now they're coming home. And I'll be honest, my wife and I are ready for them to go back and go back to school. So I understand the feeling of, even with older young adults, I guess, going back. We have 12% that aren't sure what we will be doing in the fall for schooling, and I think a lot of the thematic information that I received from the open comment section was really talking about the fear that they have about the spread of COVID. And so I think that's hopefully what we're going to be able to talk about today and be able to help you understand that, again, our number one or our priority is that we keep our students safe, and more specifically, making sure that we can have school in a safe manner. So the two big topics I want to focus on is, number one, I'm going to go through our return to school plan. In number two, our schooling options for the 2020-21 school year. I know that both are going to be very interesting because of the changes that have occurred. Let's talk about the phasing and timelines, what we did and what we've done since we've started this whole process. The planning phase was really first. We started in May really talking about what's called PPE, or personal protective equipment. We knew that we were receiving federal funds through the CARES Act, and so our first thought process was, let's go out and buy these things that we're going to need maybe next semester for our students and our staff to be protected. So everything from face coverings, face masks, all types of thermometers, fever reading types of devices that we've purchased. We've done a lot of cleaning chemicals and supplies, and really making sure that we have enough of that to have sustainability over a period of time. So we really spent most of our time in May in that first phase of really talking about how do we get through this financially and able to make sure that we provide everything that we need. In that process, we wrote what's called a grant, and we were able to get grant funding through the State Department and basically be able to purchase some of those things. We even looked at the possibility of busing, and so we know that we're short, really, buses, and to try to social distance better, we felt like that we needed additional transportation, so we are actually buying or purchasing through that CARES Act funding 3 additional route buses. So really excited about those coming in and being able to use those. June rolled around. That is really what we're calling phase 1. We had a planning phase, phase 1. Our back to school or return to school committee that I talked about just recently, we formed and met the first time. We developed and put out a survey, which really gave us great information from our community, but also from our parents, guardians, people that are in the community that really needed to be involved. We had a great, successful graduation that was held in our stadium. We've done that for many, many years, but with social distancing, what we did was we spread out the chairs across the field, the entire 100 yards. Students came across, picked up their diploma, and were able to take a picture. So the parents, we gave 6 tickets to each student, and we had a great number that participated in that. In fact, we had close to 400 students that participated in that, and we really had not only a great evening, but really everybody appropriately social distanced, wore masks, did all of the things that you should do to keep the spread very low. The other thing that we did in June that's really important is really the Summer Pride started. And this is really our student groups that everything from athletics to the band to cheerleading, all of that started starting on the 1st of June, and we were able to really capture what it's going to really look like. So what we've done is we've divided our groups into 10, no more than 10 students per coach or per instructor. We had the PPE, masks, all of those things. We took temperatures every single day, and we only had one issue, I think, in one group, and we sent that group home. And what happened was that particular group was one person was in contact with someone that had contracted COVID-19. So we basically sent them home and quarantined, and then were able to bring them back. So we really didn't have any particular student that came down with COVID-19. So we've had a great summer start with all of that. So June has been a great month for us locally here in the district. Phase 2 is July. Every time the 4th of July comes around, I always think, okay, we're ready to start school again. And I always kind of look at that as that mark that we better have a lot of things done and ready for school to start. We created a return to school document that I'm going to go through today. We developed what is called the Muskogee E-Learning Academy. Very excited about that and sharing a little bit about that. Creating board policies, making sure that our board policies are in compliance. And then our last phase is phase 3, which is August. And this will be probably the most important phase, just simply because how do we start? How does it go? How do we monitor and do all of those things? So one of the things that we know is that we've got to prepare our staff better. And so that's the responsibility of us as administrators, to make sure that we prepare our teachers for that moment that we do go home. Last year was so interesting because we basically did a pivot really quick. And when we did that, we were really home for about 2 weeks, and teachers had to kind of figure out how to do online learning. And we did that for the last part of the year. Now we have option to actually bring them in prior to that, and so we'll have a 5-day professional development, and then we're going to start school August 12th. So our first day of school will be August 12th. We'll start elementary will start at the same times, the secondary will start at their same times, and we will start school on August the 12th. We will make the appropriate modifications. There may be things that we need to do to make that work. So let's go right into the calendar. I think it's really wise to kind of talk a little bit about what the specific changes are to the calendar. Okay, we're going to do professional development different, and it's probably the first time that it's probably been done like this in most places, especially probably here in Muskogee. But we are going to do our professional development with our teachers August the 3rd through the 7th. So it's a Monday through Friday. We are going to do what is called distance learning there. So convocation will be done, but actually I will be doing convocation remotely. I won't be bringing all of the staff into the Performing Arts Center and we're doing a big, huge deal. We'll basically do something virtually. And during that time, or that week, we're providing professional development that's real, that is needed, that is going to be talked about the kind of the different things that we need to do with technology. What does it mean to go through Google Meet? And really teaching our staff how to conduct business remotely. So we're going to spend most of our time talking about that, and then also talking about the COVID-19 safety protocols. So making sure that everybody understands that and is provided the adequate training. The first day of school, again, is Wednesday, August the 12th. I think one of the things that is really big this year that I want to announce is that we will not, I repeat, we will not have late start Wednesdays. In the past, we've done late start Wednesdays so we could do what is called our professional learning communities, or our PLCs, and we've started school late on Wednesday. But we feel like that this year is the right time to really pull back from that and basically start school the same time every single day, Monday through Friday, and not have a late start Wednesday. So that will change people's schedule, and I wanted to make that announcement today. We also have built into the calendar 10 virtual days. So what that means is that they're spread out through the calendar. All of this stuff is going to be accessed through the website, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But the 10 virtual days are going to be spread out, and what those will be is really an opportunity to have what's called blended learning. We know that students now have to be able to do their work online, be able to use a Chromebook, use a computer to access and get assignments, and to provide those assignments back. The other thing that will happen in this calendar is that we will have no snow or weather days. Because of the 10 virtual days, we will actually take those days and basically apply those. So if there's any type of snow day or any of that, we'll immediately go to a virtual day, and that day will count. So good news is that, in the past, it's been hit or miss, kind of depending on the year, whether we've had a weather day. So this year we will not have any weather days because we're going to go to a virtual model. So let's talk about the return to school. You're going to see a plan that looks much like this. I know that you're probably seeing that on the screen now, but it's a return to school plan. And it's going to be interesting to see everyone go through that, and really, I think there's a lot of detail in it that you're going to need to go through. It's not going to be available until Monday. We have it ready, but we're actually going to take questions and maybe make modifications between now and Monday. So Monday will be the first time anyone will actually be able to really actually access or lay eyes on it. Let me talk about those student and staff protocols. Temperature checks, that's been a big deal. I'm going to tell you that students will not, I want to say this again, students will not be screened for COVID-19. We're not going to ask everyone to get a test before they come to school to be screened for COVID-19. That's not reality. It's very hard to do, and so that we will not be assessing that. However, school sites will have thermometers, and we will take temperatures when needed. We are not going to line the children up and take every temperature. That's not what we're going to do at this point in time. That was something that had been discussed, but we felt like that that just was not something that we should be doing. So as we go through this, I want to make sure that you understand that we're doing everything that we can to really keep people safe. So one of the things that we do know is a lot of those that are contracting COVID are the adults. So we are going to do temperature checks for every adult, every staff member that comes in the door every day. So what does that mean? The staff will be required to go through a specific area. Their temperature will be taken and it will be recorded, and we'll do that until further notice. Basically, I would anticipate that happening all the way through the first semester, and we'll know kind of where we're at with our adults and our staff. So that'll be done in the main office and taking care of that. How we're doing students is a little bit different. Again, I said that we weren't going to take temperatures of each one. What we're going to do is we're going to ask parents and or guardians to sign a COVID-19 contract. There are going to be 10 questions that you will have to answer. This will be placed online, and before a student can come to school, this contract will have to be signed by the parent or guardian. And it will talk about things like, in the last week, has your student had any fever, had chills, developed a new cough, had shortness of breath, muscle ache, sore throat, etc. has not been exposed to someone that's had coronavirus, or has not traveled outside of the state or country or around a group with high spread numbers. So these are the things that we're trying to do to make it easy, but I'm going to tell you, we have got to have your help. Parents, we've got to have your help. This is really important, that if a child has 100-degree temperature or above, they need to stay home. They must stay home. That is our threshold that we're going to use here at MPS. We're going to use 100 degrees. So if you have a temperature of 100, you need to stay home. And so that just protects everybody. You'll be able to access the agreement again beginning on Monday, July the 13th. I know a lot of people are saying, okay, I'm going to look it up right now. I understand. Again, we've got hard copies. We're ready to go live Monday, and we'll make adjustments as needed. I talked about the 100-degree temperature, but I think it's really important that you know that any student that registers 100 will not be allowed to go to class. We will quarantine them immediately and put them in an isolation room or area, and basically call parents, and parents must come and pick them up. This is such a spread that has been so rapid that we feel strongly that we must get everybody safe, and that if anybody has any type of temperature, we need to isolate them. Let me kind of talk about how you return. Like if you do have a fever, you'll be able to return in 3 days without the use of medicine. You'll be able to return when you're fever-free for 3 days. Okay? Or if you have a COVID test, say you come and pick your child up and you want to take them to the doctor and you want to get a COVID test, okay? You take that test. If it's negative, they can come to school after 48 hours fever-free, okay? So it may be that you test negative and you still have fever, and you may, the reason you stay home for fever is that the spread is rapid during that time. COVID positive tests. I think the fact that one person has a positive test, because I think a lot of people are wanting to know, well, if my child is in a classroom next to a child that has COVID and they test positive, does that mean the whole school shuts down? The answer is no. Just because one person gets that does not mean that necessarily is going to happen in that manner. So I think it's real important to understand that as we move forward, because it doesn't automatically mean that. So who would be quarantined and who would be quarantined and how that would happen kind of depends on each situation and how it's taken place. It depends on whether social distancing was in place at the time that you had contact, and were you exposed to that positive person for a long period of time, meaning probably about 30 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes, okay? That timeline could change, but if you're working in a group with one individual, another student that tests positive, and you worked with them for quite some time, you're going to be quarantined, okay? All of that tracing, okay, can't be done locally by the school district. It will be done through the health department. So you may have learned that, during this whole thing, if somebody becomes positive, immediately they begin to ask, where have you been? Who's been around you? Where did you go the last 48 hours? Who's been in contact with you? And what happens is the health department, the Muskogee Health Department, will contact all of those people and say, you were exposed to COVID-19 by this person at this time. So that's basically what will happen if this were to occur. Your question would be, I would say, so what does that number mean? So if I'm at a certain elementary, how many positive COVID tests does it take for us to shut the whole school down? The answer is, I can't give you that number today. I'm not going to give that number because I think it changes. The specific number or trigger that would automatically close schools is really a decision that's usually made through the health department and I would have also conversation with the State Department of Education. Typically, it's no different than the flu. If you'll remember, you'll notice that a lot of school districts will pay attention during flu season, and if the number rises to a certain level, they'll shut the school down because nobody, students are not coming to school, teachers are not coming to school because of the flu. So we'll use that somewhat of a threshold to shut down a school. Masks. Everybody wants to know, what are we going to do with the mask? Well, I'm going to tell you, and this is where I think some people will maybe be somewhat negative and not agree with some of the decisions, but we're going to wear masks. We're going to require that every student and every teacher, every staff member have a mask on themselves. So does that mean you have to wear a mask all the time? That is not the case. But what we're going to have is what is called a mask required zone and mask free zones. So those are going to be two different things. So what does that mean? A mask required and mask free. Mask required is when you're in the hallway and you're moving between classes and you have a lot of students in the hallway, we're going to ask everybody to have a mask on, including staff members, because there's just too many people that are passing at that time. Maybe in a library, when you're working with a lot of students in a specific area, or a cafeteria, we are going to ask every student on a bus to have a mask and wear that mask because of the social distancing on a bus. I can't put a student on every other seat on a bus. It's impossible. I don't have enough buses or bus drivers. I literally could not transport everybody to school and do that. So mask-free zones, what does that mean? Well, there are areas that you're out in the open. So if you go to recess, there's no reason to have a mask on. There may be a classroom situation to where the classroom teacher says everybody can pull your mask down and don't have to have it on at this point in time. So it's going to be up to the teacher's discretion inside their own classroom whether the student wears the mask or not. It may be different at different times as they are teaching. We are going to provide every student and every staff member one mask first semester, and second semester we'll provide a second mask, and there'll be a cloth mask. Most of them will be either green, black, or white with an M on it, basically have our logo, and you'll have that. The other thing that we will have is what are called disposable masks. There will be some that will forget their mask, okay? This is not a disciplinary issue. What it is a safety issue. Remember that. This is a safety issue. This is not, we're not trying to get anybody in trouble. What we're trying to do is making sure that everybody is safe. So what we're going to do is we're going to buy the disposable mask, and if you forget yours or don't have it with you, we're going to give you a disposable mask. So we bought plenty of those, and we've got those in the front offices, and we'll have those for students or staff that may forget them. A lot of people have asked me about the face shield, and we're looking into that, but I was looking up a lot of information. The State Department has provided information on the face shields, and because they're open and there's a good chance for some type of spread through the air, they feel like that could get in there. They said the best thing to use is really a cloth or a mask like we're using. So I'm not real sure if face shields are going to be the answer. I do know that I think our child nutrition staff are going to wear the mask and the face shield just as a precaution. So there's an aerosol nature to the virus, so I think that is something that they're talking about is potentially getting underneath the face shield at that time. So we'll research that further and find out. We want to make sure that we provide the very best things we can for our kids and our staff. Social distancing, and I want to start with this. It is impossible to social distance everywhere. I think where we can, we need to. A lot of people are saying, okay, you've got to have 6 feet, and you got to have all this room around you. And what I would tell you is that that seems like a doable situation, but it's very, very difficult. We've actually gone out and measured out classrooms and tried to figure out our square footage inside our classrooms. I mean, we're looking at 12 to 17 chairs in a room, depending on the size of the room. And most of our classrooms have at least 20 students in them. So very difficult to do, impossible to do. So what I would tell you is that I think you should not have any expectation that social distancing will occur at all times during the school day. Where we can, we're going to try very hard to do that. A lot of people talk to me about class size. We'll just hire more teachers and have less students in a class. I'm going to tell you that I totally understand that. Was a teacher myself, and I understand having a number of students in a classroom. Sometimes a smaller class size you can individualize. Totally get that. But I will tell you that financially, there is no possible way that Muskogee Public Schools can do that. And so I don't want to sit here and really tell you that can be done, because it's impossible for me to hire enough staff to only put 10 to 15 kids in one classroom across the school district. It's impossible. Let's talk about cleaning. I think that's very important. The cleaning of classrooms, buses. We are going to disinfect throughout the district every single day. Every classroom will be disinfected daily. Now, you may say, well, as soon as they touch anything, it's not disinfected anymore. So what we're going to do is provide a lot of stuff in the classrooms for teachers to help with the touch areas, the high touch areas, and also doorknobs, different things of that nature, to make sure that everybody is able to wipe down spaces that maybe kids have touched during that day. So we will actually have what are called foggers that we have purchased, and we also have machines that will do larger areas. And some of you have probably seen these on TV, and the people that are doing them. And what will happen is it's the same kind of situation. You hold this wand, and basically a mist will come out, a real fine mist, and basically disinfect and really helps us really clean the area. We are also mounting hand sanitizer dispensers, those that you push underneath and basically get hand sanitizer. Those will be in every classroom for staff and for students. So you'll be able to go in and have practice good hygiene. Cleaning solution, again, will be provided to every teacher so they can wipe down surfaces in high-touch areas. The buses, boy, I tell you, this is the one that I've always wanted to talk about because I think that when you look at a bus, how often is it really cleaned? I'm going to tell you that we're going to do them twice per day. So in the morning before the routes, and in the afternoon before the afternoon route. They will actually be disinfected both times with some type of fog machine. So our buses will be very, very clean when students load on those. We are also asking the buses to have windows down. I know it's hot in the summer, and in the winter it's going to be cold, but I will tell you that they're telling us that the airflow really helps tremendously, and so we're going to try to do that as much as possible, and we're going to also ask that all of our students wear a mask if they're on the transportation or part of that transportation and going back and forth. So I know that the options aren't great, but I can tell you this, my thought process is that we've got to be as safe as possible, and this is what we feel is the right thing to do. You know, a lot of people, one of the questions I've been asked is, what about a student that feels really confined or with a mask on? It doesn't mean that you have to have your mask on at all times during the day. It may be that you have it pulled down at certain times, and when you're within close proximity, you put your mask up. So I know it's going to be hard, but we're going to work through it little by little. Work with each other, be patient with each other, and really be safe and try to help each other. So let's talk about the schooling options. I think this is a big deal because I think everybody understands that we're going to have really what I would call two options. One option A is the traditional approach to schooling. That is, we come to school on August the 12th and we start school, okay? But I'm going to tell you that within that is what is also called a blended approach, because at any moment we could go home and stay home for a period of time. We learned that last year at spring break. So what I'm going to say is that we are looking at a traditional blended approach. All of our teachers are going to be trained on how to do the blended approach and do it better than we did last year. And then also don't forget that we have 10 virtual days. So the expectation is that we're going to have really both. There's a model called a flipped classroom, and a flipped classroom basically means that you're going to do a lot of your teaching online and the kids come to school ready and prepared. Okay, so we're going to work with that kind of stuff and really helping our teachers understand that flipped classrooms are really a great model to follow. It's more of a model to where the teacher is more of a facilitator during the day, and then basically students come prepared. So we'll talk more about that flipped classroom. There should be an expectation here that there may be extended periods of time that we will be home. So if that were to occur, we already know what a blended approach looks like and what it should be. Option B, and this is one that I'm pretty excited about because I think this is where education has really been headed for a long period of time. I think this has really just been one of those things that a virus, a pandemic, has forced our hand and forced us to really come up with a good plan for distance learning. We're going to open up for pre-K through the 12th grade what is called the Muskogee E-Learning Academy. And so it is basically a virtual program all the way and basically doing it remotely. You will have a highly qualified teacher that is from Muskogee Public Schools. That teacher will be assigned to your student, so they do not have to come to school every day. They can do their assignments online through this teacher. They're going to be able to access all of the activities. So if they're an athlete and want to be in athletics, if they want to be in FFA, if they want to be in the band, be a cheerleader, any of those things, they can access that, but they also can do it virtually. And so Muskogee E-Learning Academy is kind of on its way. We're anxiously looking to make sure that once we put this out that everybody understands that there is a long, hard commitment from everybody. So what does that commitment really mean? Well, the parent or guardian is going to sign off that they're going to be a learning coach. What does that mean? Learning coach, wait a second. Well, what that means is that it indicates that you'll be available to answer questions, communicate with the teacher, oversee the progress of your student. So basically, we're not asking you to be the teacher, but to really engage in the learning process with your child. And so we're gonna look for that commitment because we know to have success, we're going to have that parent right alongside that student. Students will be provided a technology device, of course, hotspot, everything that you need to be able to do it remotely. And basically, you'll be able to do 24/7, be online and do your work. And so we're excited to be able to offer that. The district is working with what's called a third-party vendor. It's called Edmentum. Edmentum is going to partner with one of our teachers, or with our teachers that are doing this, and they're linked as what's called a teacher mentor. So they're going to mentor that teacher and help them help the student. So we feel like that this is needed because this is our first shot at this. We're dipping our toe in the water and really hoping that we can make this work, because in the future, what I could see is that we have a e-learning is just not, this academy is just not created for COVID. It's created because we want a long-term commitment, and we want to long-term be able to offer virtual education to all students in Muskogee Public Schools. This is a caveat, and so if you got something to write with, I'd write this down. I'm telling you, this is going to be very, very important for everybody to understand. Registration and enrollment will start Monday, this coming Monday, July 13th, okay? And it will run all the way through August 3rd. So you really only have about 3.5, 4 weeks to really enroll and be a part of the new e-learning academy in Muskogee Public Schools. We're excited about it, but we also have to have a finite number of who that's going to be, how many we're going to have, so that we can do assignments of staff. The next thing that I would say is that each semester, it's not what I would call an open entry at any time, or I can get out anytime. We're going to have a 2-week commitment, and most people understand this, but wanted to say this because I don't think it's, I can stress this enough. You're going to have a 2-week time frame, the first 2 weeks of the semester, to kind of evaluate. Is this something that's good for me? Is this good for our family? Can we do this? Can my child work and do this virtual learning? And it may be that they can't and they don't feel good about it, so they're going to have to go into the traditional model. They're going to have to come to school. And so then you may have the traditional student that does the opposite, says, hey, I've heard this is a great thing, I want to enroll in that. And so you'll have a 2-week window at the beginning of the semester. We will re-enroll second semester, so you'll be able to get out if you don't care for it after the first semester. You can go into the traditional approach the second semester. So I think we're giving some good options for students and parents. I know that there's some of you that are really nervous about the spread of the coronavirus, and this may be a good fit for you. Others, there may be other situations that you're in that you feel like that this may be a better avenue for you to take for you and your family. So with that, I'm going to close out with taking questions. I know that there may be a lot of questions today. I know that a lot of people have been waiting for me to kind of produce some type of return to school plan, and what's options in the fall going to happen. Are we going to have a traditional approach? Are we going to have a virtual school? And so hopefully this has helped you with those questions. So we'll take those at this time. I've got Eric Wells with me. He's going to read some of the questions. I'll repeat the question and then try to entertain answering that question. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Eric.
Sure. Our first question comes with the contract you mentioned earlier on. Will that be weekly ratified, signed by the parent, or daily? How often will that contract be assumed with the student?
On the COVID contract, the question is how often would that be? And we're looking at right now, before a student steps into our school, in the fall, we'll have to have that on file. There may be times that we do this again within that first 9 weeks, but what we're trying to do is say, hey, you're not going to send your child to school if they have a fever. You're not going to send your child to school if they're not feeling well. And so that's really what we're wanting, is that commitment that you're going to leave your child or keep your child at home and not make them go to school if they are sick. I know that a lot of people have work and trying to go back to school or going back to work at the same time, but our thought process now is that we're going to just sign that contract the one time, and then basically it may be re-upped through the semester or through the first 9 weeks.
Very good. In relation to attendance policies, say if a student falls sick, will they be able to attend virtually? And if they're recovering, will that be held against them if they cannot do school?
Great question. If a student falls sick, does that cause them to have a problem attendance-wise? And the answer is no. That we're going to be able to do some things through the State Department to be able to recover through that. But I will tell you, you would go online immediately. It would not be through Edmentum and you'd still be in the same class, so you would not have that teacher. It would be just like if you were sick and staying home now. So the only difference is if you have a positive COVID test, you're going to be given a certain amount of time to recover, quarantine and recover, and then return. And those will not be counted against you.
Does the district plan on hiring nurses?
The district, the question is the district planning to hire nurses? Right now, we do not have a registered nurse or any type of health expert that is on staff. We have posted actually last week for a position. It's called a Director of Health and Social Services. We're in the process of interviewing for that position, and we'll be hiring a professional to do that. We will start with that, and then that person will begin hiring people, nurses, that will really serve in those health aid roles at the site. So right now we do not, but we are planning to do that very, very soon.
A couple questions about physical attendance. Will we have a back-to-school night before school starts? And will parents be able to walk their students and do class the first few days of school?
Great questions. Will we have a back-to-school night? And will we be able to walk our students to their classroom? We're looking at different options. The hard answer is no. That we're really basically saying we really don't want visitors inside the building at this moment when we first start out. So we're looking at different options. We're looking at things like video, FaceTime, and doing those kinds of things where, especially the little ones, the pre-Kers, I'm sorry, but when I took my pre-K student, don't tell anybody, but I cried. It was horrible. And so I understand that it's tough. And so we're going to try to make some exceptions to some of that, but we're working right now to figure out how does that work. Back to school nights, we're trying to do the same thing. How do we meet the teacher? How do we do all of those things? And at this point in time, we're trying to look at video as our friend and trying to do that in that manner to keep people safe. We also are looking at split schedules so that certain people could come at different times to the building and actually do meet the teacher. So I think there's going to be some possibility of that, but we just don't have those hard, fast plans at this point in time.
Very good. Lots of great feedback and questions about the e-options. The first one is, where do we sign up?
Well, I tell you, the e-learning academy is a great option. Again, that'll all be online Monday, starting the 13th. It will be within this document, and it will be a form within this document. The document right now is 30 pages, and I believe you'll be able to enroll. You'll be able to enroll through this process. So very, very simple. We're trying to make it to where it's more of a PDF document where you could do it maybe online, so you don't have to really come physically and hand it to anybody. In fact, that's probably wise since we're trying to social distance. So we're doing all of those things, and we're really getting prepared for you to enroll next week. So again, we're going to go from the 13th all the way to August 3rd, but we're going to have to cut it off August 3rd just simply because we've got to staff this virtual academy.
Very good. A question that's brought up a few times. Will IEP services be available for virtual students?
Will IEP services be available for special education? Yes. Or IEP services, will IEPs be available and special services be available for students in virtual? And that is yes. The answer is yes. I think it's going to be kind of up to you and your child if that is available. And then I think also we're going to have to really spend a little bit of time with the special services department to make sure that the services can be provided. So I think that's some of our issue too, is making sure that we can actually provide the appropriate service for special needs students. And so, but yes, our intention is to be able to offer it to all students.
Very good. One question about the e-learning academy is that will it be a current staff member, or will we hire a teacher just to run this per grade level? What will it look like? Basically, will my classroom teacher teach physically and virtually?
Okay, your teacher, you know, they're asking about, the question was really, is my e-learning teacher going to be the same as a teacher in the classroom? The answer is really no. We're going to hire our own staff. The current teachers at Muskogee Public Schools are going to be running the e-learning academy, okay? However, they're not going to have a class full of kids and students during the day and a class full of students virtually. We will assign them one or the other. So, for instance, I'll use this as the example. Pershing Elementary, if we have 35 students or if we have 25 students, we will have a teacher dedicated to e-learning. That person will come in every day. They will be in the classroom in Pershing every day and will be working from school. They won't be at home working on a computer. They'll come in just like any other teacher, okay? So, but they won't have a full classroom full of students and still trying to help your student. So that doesn't work that way. We're really making a commitment that we're really going to have teachers that are MPS teachers that are teaching our students virtually.
Can we revisit the commitment required for e-learning?
The commitment to e-learning is really, what I think is really important is, folks, I'm a dad, and so I look through that lens as a parent as well. And what I don't want is a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old at home by themselves doing online work. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm a fuddy-duddy, but I will tell you, I just don't think that's right for kids. So when I say a commitment, that means that you have grandma's watching the child, or somebody is watching and paying attention to what's going on. They're making sure the student has a schedule and doing their work. Yes, the teacher's going to be there. They have office hours. They're going to be doing Google Meet, so they're going to be online, all of that, but we don't have any supervision of that child during that time. Now, if you have a high school student, that's not an issue. That's more of maybe checking to make sure that your student's getting on every day and that they're having success. So it's probably less of a commitment at the secondary or high school level. Little more commitment probably at the elementary and middle school level. So that's what I'm really talking about, is a learning coach, that someone is paying attention to making sure that they have a place for all of their stuff, to where they are working every day. They're getting online, working with the teacher every day, that they're having success, that you're communicating with the teacher if need be. Those are the commitments that I'm wanting from teachers, or from parents, because I'm going to tell you, this does not work unless you're committed on the other end. And so I am not asking anyone to actually do a lesson or do any of that. I'm basically wanting to make sure that someone else is making sure that we can make contact with them if we're having issue on our end.
Very good. While we're on virtual, can virtual students do athletics? And for physical students, how are we going to handle close contact sports like wrestling?
Questions, and these are great questions. One was, can students in the e-learning academy, can they do sports? Can they do? Yes, the answer is yes. They're going to have that opportunity. But I think the bigger question is, what about the contact sports? What about wrestling? You would think that COVID would be, spread pretty easily. What we're trying to do is we're really staying close with the OSSAA, which is the Oklahoma Secondary Schools Activities Association, and they are the ones that are helping us walk through this athletically. They've taken it very seriously. Our athletic department is too. It may be that not all sports can be done, so we may have to rethink. We've actually had people talk about in the fall that some sports may have a difficult time performing and doing, the first few football games, for instance. How is that going to be done? Are we going to actually have those games? I'll give you a great example. One of our games is with Bentonville. Bentonville is in another state. So if that state winds up shutting down, there's no way to play Bentonville, so that game would obviously be canceled. So it's things like that that we're kind of walking through day to day, week to week, month to month. So, but I understand the concern, and we'll be updating you. But again, number one priority is people being safe and keeping our kids safe.
Very good. A few questions about lunch. Will we be eating in the classrooms, or will there be other lunch options to have fewer students in the cafeteria at night?
Let's talk about lunch. The question was, are we going to be eating in the classroom or in the lunchroom? We're doing a hybrid. In the mornings, we're going to do lunch in a bag, or breakfast in a bag, excuse me. And so what will happen is we'll have work done in basically pre-packaged goods that'll be in a sack, and basically students will come and get those and go to the classroom or stay in the lunchroom, depending on, or in the cafeteria, depending on how long or how early they get there. For lunch, basically, we're elongating the lunch period so that we do have some social distancing. What does that mean? That means we may have tables outside, we may have tables in different areas across the campus to make sure that we have separation. The lunchtime is interesting because really we got to think through letting students have a little bit of space, because holding them in a classroom all day long is very, very difficult. They need to get out and about. So we'll do lunch. For instance, the high school is going to have 3 different lunch periods. They've always had 2. Middle school or the junior high is going to do the exact same thing. They're going to have 3 lunch periods. At the elementaries, they're going to elongate and basically have longer lunch periods as well.
A few questions about elementary. Will there be large gatherings such as like PE specials or assemblies or things like that? Or will those be turned away?
Question was, will there be PE specials? Will there be large gatherings? The answer is no. I mean, we're going to offer PE, but it may be in a different way. We cannot put 3 classrooms in the same area. Now, understand, some of our gyms are a little bit bigger, so we might be able to do 2 classes instead of 3. But we're really going to be very thoughtful in how we do that. I think there's going to be a lot of outside activities, more so than we've ever done. But we want that experience of having to be able to go to music and learn, and being able to go to physical education. The kids need that. So, but we're going to be very thoughtful in how we do that. It may be that in some instances we're doing it by class. So it will look different and be different.
Very good job. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I tell you, great questions. I think that one of the things that I want to tell you is that I really am excited about a new school year. I think it's going to be different. There's no question. We know that, but I will tell you that we are trying our very best to make sure that we keep everyone safe. Our students and our staff are really important to us, and we want to make sure of that. So stay tuned. We're going to come back to you probably in the next couple of weeks and give you any updates. I think this has been our best way to communicate. We've gotten a lot of great feedback this way. And don't forget, if you're going to be an e-learning academy student, you have to enroll starting next week, and you have till August 3rd, and we look forward to having you. Have a great day.